Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. It was one of those unusually quiet Sunday mornings when the world felt paused. Yet the chaos of life was simmering just beneath the surface. I had taken my usual spot at the corner table of the little cafe near my apartment. The one with the cracked window that always let in the morning sunlight just right. I was scrolling through my phone, trying to drown out thoughts that had been gnawing at me for weeks. My wife, Amelia, had been acting distant, distracted, the kind of distant that didn't come with an explanation. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but sharp enough that I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had just taken a sip of my coffee when she appeared. Not Amelia, no, but a woman who looked like she had walked straight out of a magazine spread. She had this effortless elegance, auburn hair falling just past her shoulders, and eyes that were an exact shade of hazel that made you feel like she could see right through you. She slid into the seat across from me without so much as a hello, but her eyes locked on mine in a way that immediately made my chest tighten. "You're Nathan, right?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. There was no room for misunderstanding. She knew me, and clearly, I was meant to know her. I blinked. "Yes, I'm Nathan. And you are Clara," she said, giving the tiniest, mysterious smile. "And I think we need to talk." Her words made my stomach knot. My mind raced 1,000 directions, each more improbable than the last. "Talk about?" I asked cautiously. She leaned in, the kind of lean that seemed to close the space between us even though the table was between us. "About our spouses," she said. Her tone was calm, almost casual, but there was a glint in her eye that made me sit up straighter. "Your wife is dating my husband." The sentence hit me like a cold wave. I didn't immediately respond because there was a part of my mind that wanted to reject it outright, a part that wanted to laugh and say, "This isn't real," but another, more rational part of me froze in shock. The cafe sounds, clinking cups, low murmurs, the hiss of the espresso machine, suddenly faded into nothing. Clara studied my reaction carefully. "I know it sounds insane," she said, "but I've got proof. Photos, messages, all of it." I swallowed hard. Amelia. My Amelia. The thought of betrayal made my chest tighten in a way I hadn't expected. I had noticed the little things, the late nights, the unexplained texts, the faint scent of someone else's perfume. I had ignored them, telling myself I was being paranoid, that love was meant to endure challenges. But now I had confirmation, or at least someone who claimed to have it. Clara's calm demeanor was almost soothing, strangely. She didn't scream or cry or demand retribution. She simply said, "We don't have to handle this with anger. We can handle it differently." I blinked, not sure what she meant. She slid something across the table, a small envelope. Inside were photographs, text screenshots, and snippets of conversations. My mind reeled. Every piece aligned with the uneasy gut feeling I had been suppressing. Couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. And yet, there it was, laid bare in front of me. For a moment, I just sat there, processing, trying to steady my racing heart. Clara didn't rush me, didn't demand answers. She just waited, a calm anchor in a storm that had been brewing silently for months. Finally, I spoke, voice barely above a whisper. What do we do now?" Her smile widened just slightly, mischievous in a way that suggested she had been waiting for me to ask exactly that question. "We give them a surprise," she said, leaning back in her chair. "One they'll never forget." I stared at her, half incredulous, half desperate for some kind of plan, some kind of justice. "A surprise?" I asked hesitantly. "Yes," she said. "A surprise they'll never see coming. But it has to be careful. Perfect, elegant, subtle, yet unforgettable." A strange calm settled over me then, like a switch had been flipped. I had been simmering in confusion, hurt, and silent rage for weeks. And now, here was a plan. Not impulsive, not reckless, but deliberate. I felt a spark of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. "I'm in," I said finally. "But we have to be smart about this. No mistakes." Clara nodded approvingly. "Exactly. We start by gathering all the details, timing, habits, places they frequent. Then we orchestrate the perfect encounter. We spent the next hour over coffee, quietly strategizing. She was meticulous, almost surgical in her planning, and I realized something strange. I was laughing again. Not the nervous, empty kind of laugh I had been suppressing, but a real laugh, the kind that came from connecting with someone who understood exactly what I was feeling and shared my desire for justice, or maybe just poetic closure. By the time we left the cafe, I felt an odd mix of nerves and excitement. Clara had a plan, and somehow, in a few short hours, a stranger had become my partner in this strange, surreal mission. We didn't speak much on the way out, but the tension was replaced with a sense of anticipation. I didn't know how Amelia would react. I didn't know what the consequences would be. But one thing was clear. Nothing about that morning had been ordinary, and neither was the plan we were about to execute. The days that followed felt like we were in a secret world of our own. Clara and I had set our plan into motion, carefully observing Amelia and her new companion, a man named Derek, without making a single misstep. Every detail mattered: the timing of their outings, their favorite restaurants, the small routines that revealed their predictable patterns. It was strangely thrilling to watch the pieces fall into place, not out of malice, but out of a desire for clarity, an exposure that Amelia could never ignore. Clara and I met again at the cafe 2 days later, this time armed with a clear outline. "Tonight," she said, her eyes sparkling with a mix of mischief and precision, "we confront them, but subtly. They need to see the surprise, feel the shock, but not suspect it was orchestrated." I nodded, feeling a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. I had rehearsed my calm, the neutral expression I would wear, the tone of voice that would not betray the storm of emotions simmering beneath. Clara, on the other hand, seemed almost effortlessly composed, the kind of calm that made you trust her completely. That evening, I parked a few blocks away from the little bistro where Amelia and Derek had made their usual Thursday dinner reservation. Clara arrived shortly after, as arranged, wearing a coat that perfectly masked any indication of her involvement. We exchanged a small nod, the only acknowledgement we needed. Inside, Amelia laughed lightly at something Derek said, the sound familiar yet distant to me now. The pang of jealousy hit, but I focused, reminding myself that this was not about revenge. It was about unveiling the truth in a way that could not be ignored. Clara slipped in behind us, taking a seat at a nearby table that had a clear view of our unsuspecting spouses. I took a deep breath, walking up to Amelia's table as though by chance, smiling politely. "Mind if I join you?" I asked. Amelia blinked, startled, forcing a polite smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Derek looked confused, caught mid-chew. His fork paused awkwardly in the air. Clara followed, casually positioning herself opposite me. The room felt smaller suddenly, as if the walls had leaned in to watch what was about to unfold. Amelia's eyes widened slightly, realization dawning that this was no coincidence. Derek's confident composure faltered, and I saw the first flicker of unease cross his face. "Amelia," I began, keeping my tone calm, almost conversational. "I didn't expect to see you here tonight. Funny coincidence, isn't it?" My words were light, but the weight behind them was unmistakable. Clara added with a small smile, "Yeah, quite the coincidence for everyone involved." The silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable, as Amelia and Derek exchanged glances. Derek's smile, which had once been so sure and arrogant, faltered, replaced by an uneasy curiosity. Amelia's hand gripped the edge of the table, her mind clearly racing, trying to interpret the strange alignment of events. Then Clara, with the calm precision of someone who had rehearsed this moment, leaned slightly forward. "You see," she said, voice soft but carrying an unmistakable authority, "we know everything. The dinners, the messages, the little secrets you thought were hidden." The words landed like stones in a still pond. Amelia's lips parted, and for the first time, I saw something other than confidence in her eyes: shock, fear, and perhaps even regret. Derek's posture stiffened, his gaze darting between the two of us, uncertain how to navigate the sudden exposure. I kept my expression neutral, letting the weight of the moment speak for me. "It's not about anger," I said, my voice low but steady. "It's about clarity, about understanding that some actions have consequences, even when you think no one is watching." The final piece fell into place when Clara subtly revealed the photos and messages, casually yet decisively. Amelia gasped, covering her mouth with her hand. Derek's face drained of color, his confidence evaporating in the span of a heartbeat. The surprise, as planned, was complete. An exposure that left them with no room to maneuver, no plausible deniability. For a moment, the room held its collective breath. Then Clara and I quietly excused ourselves, leaving Amelia and Derek to process the reality we had carefully constructed. Outside, the crisp night air hit my face, and I felt a strange release, a weight lifting that I hadn't realized I had been carrying for weeks. Clara looked at me, her smile both triumphant and knowing. "They'll remember this," she said, voice low, almost a whisper. "Not because of anger, but because the truth is impossible to ignore." I nodded, feeling a clarity I hadn't felt in a long time. This wasn't about revenge, not really. It was about reclaiming my space, my dignity, and my sense of reality. Amelia had made choices, Derek had made choices, and I had made mine with purpose and precision. Walking away that night, I realized something important. Sometimes, the most powerful surprises aren't loud or dramatic. They're the ones that reveal the truth quietly, leaving no room for doubt, no room for pretense. And for the first time in months, I felt free, not just from betrayal, but from the uncertainty that had been slowly eroding me. Clara gave me one final nod before disappearing into the night, leaving me with a sense of partnership I hadn't expected. A strange twist of fate had brought us together for a common cause, and somehow, in the midst of chaos, a new clarity had emerged. I walked home alone, under the streetlights, feeling the night wrap around me like a shield. And though I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, I knew one thing for certain. I would face it with the calm certainty of someone who had reclaimed control over his life, who had seen the truth, and who had made sure it was never ignored.